Today, we're conducting a systematic dismantling of one of the most popular and, I would argue, most destructive financial beliefs of our time. We are going to put the entire idea of good debt under a microscope and see if it survives the scrutiny.
You've heard this line before, right? It's the central mantra from the high priest of leverage, Robert Kiyosaki. And look, it's clever, it gets a laugh at seminars, and it makes it sound like massive debt is a sign of power, a way to flip the script and put the bank on the defensive. But according to the analysis we're about to walk through, it's a profound and incredibly dangerous lie. It's an idea that has systematically led countless aspiring investors straight to financial ruin. Because let's be real, if you owe the bank $1 billion, you are not a free person. You're an employee of the bank. You are a hamster on a wheel made of interest payments. That's not freedom, that's just high-stakes indentured servitude.
So, the crucial point here is this. We need to completely reframe the conversation. Because the world of mathematics, well, it doesn't operate on morality. It doesn't see good or bad. It sees only one thing: leverage. And leverage, well, leverage is like a radioactive isotope. It does not care about your intentions.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for this deep dive. First, we'll deconstruct the leverage lie and the cult that's built up around it. Then, we're going to perform a forensic autopsy on the mathematics of ruin. From there, we'll uncover the fragility equation, which is really the hidden mechanism of collapse. After that, we'll explore the survivor's delusion to understand why this lie is so incredibly persuasive. And finally, we'll build a new foundation with the Unlevered protocol, a framework for real financial resilience. So let's just begin by tackling this belief system head-on. For decades, a certain narrative has been sold that there's a secret path to wealth, a kind of shortcut available to anyone who's just brave enough to use other people's money. We're going to treat this idea not as financial advice, but as the core text of a cult. Now, what's so interesting about this definition is how cold and mechanical it is. It strips away all the marketing, all the hype. See, leverage isn't magic. It's simply a fixed liability, like your monthly mortgage payment, bolted onto a volatile asset, like a house whose value can go up or down. It's really just a call option. You are making a bet that the asset's performance will be positive, significant, and completely uninterrupted forever. And this slide just perfectly illustrates the disconnect. In Kiyosaki's world, you've got this simple moral binary: good debt to buy assets, bad debt to buy liabilities. He tells you debt is money and to always use OPM. But in the real world, the world of mathematics, there's only the unforgiving relationship between a fixed liability and a volatile asset. Debt isn't money, it's a promise to pay. It's a form of servitude. And using OPM isn't some clever trick. It's a naked bet against the inherent chaos and volatility of the market. And that's because you have to understand the business model here. Kiyosaki isn't your financial advisor. He's a salesman. His product is the dream of getting rich quick with leverage. It's like he's selling you the heroin while he, metaphorically, sips on green tea. His wealth doesn't come from taking this massive risk himself, but from convincing millions of other people to take that risk for him. All right, now we move to the data-driven core of this whole analysis. We're shifting away from the rhetoric and into the raw, empirical evidence of why leverage is so incredibly dangerous. We're going to look at the numbers and the mechanics that inevitably lead to financial collapse. This concept is called path dependence, and honestly, it is the single most important idea to grasp in this entire explainer. So look at the unlevered investor. They buy a $100,000 house with cash. Even if the market has a catastrophic 50% crash, sure, they've lost paper value, but they still own the asset free and clear. They can wait. They can ride it out for years, even decades. Time is their friend. Now, look at the levered investor. They're using 10-to-1 leverage. A mere 10% drop in the market completely wipes out their $10,000 in equity. They're instantly insolvent. A temporary market fluctuation has created a permanent, catastrophic event. For them, time is a ticking bomb, because every single month that passes is another mortgage payment due on an asset that's completely underwater. 19-to-1. Just let that number sink in. This represents the actual leverage ratio of a real-world case study we're about to look at. A disciple of this good debt philosophy. Let's call him Dave. This was his situation right before the 2008 financial crisis. For every $1 of his own money, he had borrowed 19. He thought he was building an empire. In reality, he was building a house of cards on a fault line. So let's look at his numbers from 2006. On paper, Dave looks like a genius. He owns 10 properties with a total value of $3 million. He's walking around telling his friends he's a multimillionaire. Yeah, his debt is massive, but his tenants are paying it down, and he's collecting $2,000 a month in what he calls passive income. He thinks he's won the game. But that $150,000 of equity, it isn't a foundation. It's a razor-thin buffer against $3 million of volatile assets. A mere 5% drop in property values would wipe him out completely.
And then 2008 hits. And it's not one single problem. It's a cascade of failures that leverage amplifies into a perfect storm. First, vacancy. The economy turns, 3 tenants lose their jobs, and they stop paying rent. His passive income, poof, vanishes overnight. He's now cash flow negative, forced to pay the banks out of his own pocket. Second, deflation. The housing market crashes. His properties are now worth less than what he owes. He's underwater on all 10 of them. He can't sell, he can't refinance, he is trapped. And third, the credit freeze. His adjustable rate mortgages reset, and his interest payments jump, just as the banks, who are terrified of risk, freeze all lines of credit.
The outcome was not a setback. It was permanent ruin. In just 6 months, Dave went from a self-proclaimed real estate mogul to a bankruptcy statistic. The bank took everything, all 10 rental properties, his primary residence. They even garnished his wages for years. The very same good debt that created the illusion of his empire was the exact mechanism that guaranteed its total and irreversible destruction. So that's what happens. But why does it happen with such mathematical violence? This brings us to the core mental model of our analysis, the concept of fragility. This is the hidden mechanism that truly explains why leverage is so destructive. This concept, which is drawn from the work of Nassim Taleb, is actually quite simple. Something is fragile if it's harmed by volatility, randomness, and stress. A coffee cup is fragile. You drop it, it shatters. It just cannot handle the shock. A plastic cup, on the other hand, is robust. You drop it, it bounces. It's designed to withstand volatility. And this right here is the key insight. Debt makes your financial life a fragile coffee cup. It removes all the buffers, all the flexibility. It makes your financial structure rigid and brittle, so that when the inevitable shock comes, a lost job, a market crash, a global pandemic, the whole thing just shatters. The myth of good debt is built on the assumption of a perfectly stable world, a world that has never existed and never will. Now, what's really interesting here is that this slide shows the absolute root of the problem. This is the asset-liability mismatch. Your asset, the rental property, is variable. Its value fluctuates. The rent can stop coming in. But your liability, the mortgage, is fixed. The payment is constant. The bank demands its money every single month, no matter what. This fundamental imbalance is the root cause of nearly every major financial crisis in history. You are betting a variable income stream can service a fixed, unforgiving cost. So if the math is this clear and the risk of ruin is this high, why is the idea of good debt so damn popular? Why has Rich Dad Poor Dad sold tens of millions of copies? Well, the answer doesn't lie in finance, it lies in psychology.
There are 2 primary cognitive biases at play here. The first is survivorship bias. We see the real estate gurus on social media with their Lamborghinis. We see the one person who used leverage and basically won the lottery. What we don't see is the massive, silent graveyard of the thousands of Daves who tried the exact same strategy and lost everything. The second bias is impatience. Our brains are hardwired for immediate gratification. Building wealth slowly, with cash, takes decades of discipline. Leverage offers the seductive illusion of a shortcut, a way to have the paper wealth of a millionaire today.
This quote from the source materials just perfectly captures it. The failures are silent. The bankrupt, they don't write books, they don't host seminars, they disappear, usually ashamed, back into the middle class. And because they're silent, our perception of the risk is completely skewed. We only ever hear from the lottery winners who tell us the strategy is foolproof. Okay, so we've deconstructed the myth. Now what? This brings us to our final and I think most important section, building an alternative. This isn't about avoiding risk altogether. It's about engaging with the world in a way that builds resilience, not fragility. It's called the Unlevered protocol. And there are 3 very actionable steps. First, rebrand the language. Stop calling it good debt. Call it what it is, high-stakes leverage, and treat it like a chainsaw, a powerful tool that can be incredibly useful but can cause catastrophic injury if you use it carelessly. Second, implement the net worth rule. This is a simple guardrail. Never carry more total debt than your liquid net worth. This neutralizes the fragility because you always have an exit. If the asset goes to 0, you can pay the debt and walk away. You lost a bet, you didn't lose your life. And third,
Use the barbell strategy. Be extreme at both ends. Keep 90% of your financial life incredibly safe and debt-free, your home, your retirement. Then you can take calculated risks with the other 10%, the portion that's been firewalled from the part you absolutely need to survive.
And this brings us to the final crucial question you have to ask yourself. Leverage is often the fastest way to get rich on paper. It is also, by far, the fastest way to go broke. The goal of this game isn't just to reach the summit. It's to stay there. And according to this analysis, the surest way to build lasting, resilient wealth, to stay rich forever, is to owe nothing to anyone.